Welcome to Dugout Therapy, a baseball podcast about the mental game built by coach greats. If you're looking to succeed both on and off the field, this is the place for you.
And we see the trend of lessons and lessons teaching these small isolated movements, but as far as athletic play, we train patterns, not parts. And we need to develop patterns before parts, or else there's just gonna be no synchronization and harmony and transfer from the gym and movement into the field of play. That's when I started to think like we're missing the ball on something. There's still a huge divide here between the baseball player and the athlete. And until we narrow that gap, we're drastically gonna limit their potential to be a great baseball player, because if you neglect the foundation and the motor of the athlete, you're in trouble. It's gonna you're gonna hit a wall as far as the development side goes, and that's where really fast infield development has taken off from that foundation there.
Hey guys, welcome to Dugout Therapy. Got a really cool episode today. I'm here with my co-host Quinn. Quinn, how you doing, man?
Hey, I'm good. How are you, Dave?
I'm hanging in there. Late on a Sunday evening.
Did you hear that? Crack of the can?
What do we got going on over there?
No, that's just a LaCroix.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, Quinn, I thought you cutting the carbs out of your diet.
Mm-hmm. Still working on that.
Work in progress.
So want to introduce all our guests to you, Drew. I got Drew Walsh here with F.A.S.T Development. Really cool fielding company that does fielding development, infield stuff. Just have been addicted and love your content, Drew, since I first found you guys, and been waiting honestly to have this conversation for a while. So super excited for our listeners to hear more about you.
Awesome. Thank you, David, Quinn. Appreciate you guys having me. Super excited to talk shop and hopefully provide some helpful content for the listeners.
Definitely. Go. Yeah, no, I'm excited. I doing a little research on you. I see you got sports science background, and when I think about F.A.S.T and what you guys are doing, I think that's definitely a crucial part of your program. You having that kind of background. So I guess before we get all crazy and get underway here, can you give the listeners I'm getting excited already, but can you give the listeners a little background on your baseball story and where you're from?
Of course. Baseball has been a huge part of my life. I played since I can remember. I was told I was picking up a bat at 1 years old, and just continued to play throughout my childhood. Played in college, played at a small Division I school in New York, LIU Brooklyn, and I was a 4-year middle infielder there, where I studied undergrad exercise physiology, and that's where it all started. I didn't know what I wanted to do initially. I thought about possibly athletic training, and I started taking some classes, and I was just absolutely fascinated with how the human body works and how complex and amazing it is, and just the interconnectedness with movement and baseball. And it just really captivated my attention. I just found a quick passion for it. So I played 4 years at LIU, played middle infield. My career didn't go as far as I wanted. A lot of us could say that, right? But I had so many good memories that I'll never forget. And I knew I wanted to stay involved in the game of baseball, which so fortunate enough to have the staff that I did who let me continue to stay in the game, where I was a graduate assistant at LIU Brooklyn. And it allowed me to gave me a couple more years to get into the trenches and see the game from such a different perspective, where I spent 4 years, my whole life as a player. That's all I knew. And to take a step back and see the game from the outside looking in was really eye-opening. And you got to see so many nuances to the game that as a player, your coach would tell you, but it would go in one ear, out the other, and yeah, because you knew it all as a player, right? Getting to coach those 2 years as a graduate assistant and continue to to study exercise science was just a perfect duo for me. And I was able to go out, recruit, and evaluate, and really dive in and run the regime as far as infielders. I got to coach them and work with the hitters. I was recruiting, like I mentioned, and I got to see all the sides of coaching, the good, the bad, the ugly. And it gave me a couple years to see, what I wanted to do moving forward. And that's where it all started. After my 2 years of coaching, I then really wanted to go out and pursue my academic studies, and it led me to a sports performance facility out in White Plains, New York. And that's where I got my foundation, and I learned a lot. I worked with all sorts of athletes and got exposed to so many different scenarios. And it started from there, and it's evolved ever since.
Right off the bat, I couldn't agree more with you. I feel like right after college, I was the same way. Like when I started coaching, it was like, this is completely different watching than when I was in it. Like I tried to, I feel like, be like that mentor type player, like with my other teammates, but like off the field, just completely different, seeing like the nuances. So I think that was really cool. They got to be a grad assistant and have that background. When you were recruiting, I guess, what were you looking for maybe in infielders, or what was something common that you found, while recruiting, that helped you, determine the better infielders from, your average ones during that process?
Awesome question. So you got to watch a lot of baseball out there, as fellow coaches know. You're at Diamond Nation just about every other day. And I guess when you go out there, and speak for myself, when I'm recruiting and I was out looking for players to bring into the program in which me and my classmates and coaches have done so much to try and build a culture, I first and foremost want to make sure we're recruiting a good human being, right? I want to make sure that if I was still playing, I would really enjoy playing with this person who we're going to recruit to bring into our family. It's a really big decision for, just athletes in general going to college, right? And it's got to be the right fit. But when I'm out there, as far as trying to identify what infielders that I think would be a good fit for our system, outside of just being a good person, I want to see how they carry themselves. How do they deal with adversity, right? This game is 70% failure. And I want to see what they do when things don't go their way. How do they respond? Do they point fingers? Do they wear their emotions on their sleeve? Which is it could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, depending on the situation. But I just want to see how the non-tangible things first, right? And just make sure we cover all those boxes. And then my eyes are just telling me those infielders, they're going to stand out. They're going to have a different spring to them. Okay, they're going to get to balls that, the normal infielder doesn't. They just have a little bit of that X factor to them. Those are the things. The athletes stand out. That when it comes down to it, athletes stick out, and that's why you always hear, shortstops and center fielders are recruited, because they're the best athletes on the field. And if you have a really good athlete, there's so much potential for them to transfer over and play any position you may need, and they just bring so much value and versatility to the game.
That moxie, that's what you need.
That moxie, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I liked how you said they're like spring or like hop. Like there may not be a word for it, but like that
twitch. You want a twitchy guy, You want
that someone with quick twitch. Yes,
it's just effortless out there. It's fluid out there. They're not forcing it. They're not robotic. They're playing defense, but they're on the offense always. And that's what we talk to when we're working with infielders. Man, we play defense, but we're on offense. We're collecting outs. So just like seeing infielders out there with confidence, and if we fail fast, and we move on to the next play. How do you communicate with your teammates? And then outside of the 5 tools, right? You're always looking for them, and you have your standards that you're looking for, and there's a lot more that goes into it. You want a kid who is coachable. I think that's the biggest thing. You got someone who is open to coaching and open to hearing, being open-minded. So you have to look at it from a couple different lenses when you're trying to you're investing in that person. Whereas a lot of travel teams are are collecting money. We're investing money in these athletes. So we got to cross all our boxes off just more than performance. Okay. Obviously we want to get the stud and we would love to have the high profile guys, but that just might not be a good fit for the culture. And there's just so many variables that go into it outside of the 5 tools.
Yeah. Yeah. And like ultimately, if they're not a fit for that culture, they're going to negatively affect the team in the long run. So I love how, you're thinking about, maybe when that guy makes an error, when you're in that recruiting process, how is he responding to that error? How is he responding to mistakes in the long run for your program? Those things will catch up. I know we had a couple guys, on my team that my coach ended up letting go. Like he flat out said it, like, shouldn't have recruited these guys. They weren't a good culture fit. And they ended up hurting us because, they're very talented, but they were me guys.
100%.
You can't build a team out of me guys. You need guys that work together, that are coachable, like you're saying, all these things. They add on to each other.
You're going to spend a lot of time with them. You're going to spend a lot of time with them. They're going to spend a lot of time with their teammates. And you just want to make sure that, listen, we love each other, and there's times where we might not like each other, but overall we're same mission, same goal, and just want accountability there with each other.
For sure. So I guess, after you were a graduate assistant, did F.A.S.T kind of evolve during your time as the assistant, or kind of afterwards from there?
What happened after I went to the sports performance facility, spent a few years there, I always knew I wanted to open up my own spot, and I wanted to get well versed in the industry. So following that sports performance facility, I went out into Manhattan and worked as more in the fitness side of industry with more business savvy, into a big box gym where I personal trained and had to build up my business, and still continued to stay in the game, coaching travel ball, doing winter clinics, doing development work. And I just wanted to see all the sides to it so I could say I've been there before if I'm opening up a spot. And I spent a few years doing that. And F.A.S.T development, no one particular reason why it started. It's just a culmination of my playing experience, my coaching experience, my studies. It's just by being out and having coached in college and coached at the youth level and in between, I just saw such a common reoccurring pattern, right? When I was evaluating kids, when we were at showcases or just watching, I'd always see when we would get to our eval cards and we're trying to give the kids tangible, applicable information, a common themes were it needs to get faster, needs to get stronger, needs to get more athletic, explosive, all these things for such a large percentage of these kids. So that's when I started to think like we're missing the ball on something. There's still a huge divide here between the baseball player and the athlete. And until we narrow that gap, we're drastically going to limit their potential to be a great baseball player. Because if you neglect the foundation and the motor of the athlete, you're in trouble. It's going to come, you're going to hit a wall as far as the development side goes. And that's where really F.A.S.T infield development has taken off from that foundation there.
I absolutely love that, because on the flip perspective, when I was going through the recruiting process as an athlete when I was younger, I feel like that are all the core categories that I was told about, like gotta be, quicker to the hole, got it, whatever, like that. Like I essentially went from being a shortstop to a corner guy in college for a couple of those reasons. And I saw so many other players that I played with or knew, like, not make that next jump, that were good athletes. I don't know why. And I think there is a huge gap there. And a need for programs like this that you're doing, because it really is like a lot of, even like my college program, like there's such a focus on like just fielding, but not maybe the agility, speed, like the stuff that really makes up the core of that athlete to be a good fielder.
Totally.
So
yeah. And as you said, as you move up the ranks, right, I think the biggest differentiator to getting to the next level is game speed. And before that, always is the mental
Mhm.
side of the game. But, game speed really accelerates. And I think a lot of our youth athletes are getting lost in the shuffle. And I think it's because of that. We're not developing our athletes first because of the pressures that we've created, that kids need to meet these specific benchmarks at a certain time and need to be at this
Mhm.
showcase and play all year round. They don't have there's no such thing as off season anymore. When do we get time to develop the athlete?
Mhm.
We got 2 weeks in the end of November or beginning December. Well, good luck trying to create the athlete in 2 weeks. You find some Wizard of Oz to help you out
It's
there.
like the biggest
So
problem I see.
I think we need to take a step back and reformulate how we're going to develop these baseball athletes. And
Mhm.
I think like I said, we got to build the engine first, and then we're going to put that
Mhm.
athlete in such a better position to absorb these technical skills, small isolated movements. Once we build the motor, they'll have such a larger capacity to translate these skills into the field of play, and have these transferability is what we're looking
Mhm.
for, and always when we're training. And there's just that disconnect there where they can't comprehend what we're trying to ask, or the game is asking of them, because we haven't given them the tools to do so.
Do you think
Mhm.
the answer might be to just have an entire season for resting? Like if you're a year-round baseball player, do you think you should maybe take fall off to rest, rehab, train?
Totally. Now it's funny because I moved across the country in the West Coast, living in San Diego. So now I get to see it firsthand. There's no snow. There's no bad weather anymore to give you the excuse to go play basketball or just go train
Mhm.
because you can't get outside, right? And you could always throw a ball against the wall, and that's what we had to do, and that was great. But I think we do need to figure that into our annual plan. When are we going to shut the kids down and start to really dive in and hit the reset button mentally too? These kids are exhausted, okay? And I think there's pressures that, if they don't play fall ball, then they won't make the team during spring because, the coach expects them to be there in the fall and they're not committed enough. Or maybe their parents are saying, oh, if you don't work out today and you're not going to make the team, someone's going to get better than you. And there's so much merit in that. But are we working smart, right? The things we're working on. If we play
Mhm.
all year round, we're getting kids just going through the motion, and we are gonna get burnout. So
Yeah,
there's a fine line there.
Mhm.
great word.
Yeah. So I coached. I've been coaching travel ball at like the 13 to like 15 level, and these kids specifically are being pressured. I think from like their varsity coaches to play all year round. Like, and
Right.
I know it happens everywhere, but I think for a lot of coaches listening to this, hearing this perspective is like huge. Like the expectations have to change. It like there's articles coming out every day about how one sport athletes like they especially playing like a sport like baseball where these intricate movements are done repetitively on their joints are just like
For sure.
terrible for their body. Like if you play the same sport, that's why you see two sport or three sport athletes like end up being overall like more healthy because they're changing up the movements and wear and tear that they're doing on their body. But so like if you're a coach listening to this, like I think it's awesome to hear what you're saying right now. Like the expectations need to change. Like a season, even 2 seasons of the year can be spent doing individual training of some sort and making them overall better of an athlete before they go out and work on their
Couldn't
craft
agree
again.
more at that, and I hope we're starting to move towards that. And you see some
Mhm.
organizations partnering up with
Yeah.
the gym, and it's so great to see that. And I hope that trend continues to
Mhm.
only get stronger. I agree with everything you said there.
Mhm.
We need to build these kids, and it depends on their age and where they're at. But I couldn't agree more. For youth athletes, multi-sport is the best training you could provide for them. And you said it best. We're training different movements. We're giving them way more tools, okay? And they're figuring things out
Mhm.
that the game of baseball can't provide for them. But it will transfer into their athletic performance when they do go to play baseball. They have that versatility and the variability now to go express that onto the field.
When you're coming up with these drills for fast development, are you taking a lot of this from your experience in exercise physiology, or is this being derived from your time as a grad assistant, working with guys?
It's a little bit of everything, right? Like we said, when we look at F.A.S.T, we're trying to bridge the gap between athletic development and technical skill. So everything we do, we're trying to, when we would go out and coach, we'd see all these athletes that really struggle to get into fundamental human movement patterns, such as a squat, which is a level change, or a lunge, which is a variation of level change, more specific to change of direction work. So for instance, we'd go to these showcases and, the first thing we're doing with these infielders is we're getting our dailies in. And just right then and there, if we evaluated what was going on, we'd see so many kids having difficulties to get into good postures. Kids don't even know how to hip hinge, which is the main pillar of human movement, right? So that's where F.A.S.T comes in, because we're fortunate enough to look at the game from two lenses, right? We look at it from a movement coach, and we look at it from a baseball coach, technical skill coach. So we're able to see the athlete in front of us, see what they need, and that will tell us what we have to do moving forward. If they can't level change, and it could be due to various reasons, whether it's joint restrictions, whether they don't have good motor control, or previous injuries, that's why we evaluate who's in front of us, because then we get to see where we're going to go and not just throw darts in the dark, That's the fun part, and we're so excited to see the game from both sides to it. And we see the trend of lessons and lessons teaching these small isolated movements. But as far as athletic play, we train patterns, not parts. And we need to develop patterns before parts, or else there's just going to be no synchronization and harmony and transfer from the gym and movement into the field of play.
I absolutely love that that phrase. It's like building a foundation of patterns. Like if I think back on maybe my development, I'm thinking like, did that ever happen? No, like I feel like I made a foundation of patterns over my career, and did I ever really master them? Maybe not. I think that's crucial for the younger guy, working on bridging this gap. But I guess, can you kind of take us through, what's the program development, or how do you develop a program for an athlete? Say they just come to you, say, I want to start working with you. I'm looking to do X, Y, Z. What's the kind of process for evaluating the athlete and determining what's the best program to
Sure. So say an athlete comes into the facility day one, we're just getting to know the person, right? The main part of coaching is communication. So when someone comes, we're just trying to make them feel comfortable. They may feel very out of their comfort zone, very out of their element. So when we first meet a kid, we just want to get to know the human. All right, let them know we're human too. We coach, but we're part of your team. So from there, we'll go into some kind of we have our questionnaires that we'll have our athletes fill out, and that's our liability stuff, that's our injury history stuff, that's our PAR-Q kind of stuff. We're trying to just get so much information via conversation from the athlete to try and give us the best ability to further program out for them. So we're having just a little conversation with them, and within this conversation, I'm seeing what their focus is, what they actually like to do, what have they done have they even trained before, do they have injuries, and if they do, our job is to figure out what's the root cause of that injury, so it can never happen again, and we can figure out how it happened in the first place, because humans, we're creatures of habit, and usually it's because of either repetitive poor patterns or behaviors, right? Due to society, we have kids maybe not being as active today, or sitting for prolonged periods of time. So these are all factors that are going to inhibit the development of that athlete. So we'll go through a whole questionnaire process. We'll do our goal setting just to hear them tell us what they want. And then now we just reverberate what they said back to us. And then we're their roadmap to fill in the blanks for them. So we want them to start talking about them being successful and envisioning themselves being successful training with F.A.S.T. And from there, after our questionnaires, we'll get into a functional movement screen, which is about 5 to 7 tests of just 7 basic human movement patterns. And you'd be very surprised to just see how many athletes struggle with body weight unloaded movements, and it tells us a lot. It gives us tremendous amounts of feedback on where they're at as a mover, right? So that furthermore helps us to see what's going to be our entry point when we go to program design for this athlete. And then we'll do all our range of motion testing. We'll do our hip special tests. We'll do our shoulder, hip, internal, external rotation. We'll do some ankle dorsiflexion. We'll then go into some kind of performance test. And I definitely want to see, a broad jump, a lateral broad jump. And then we're going to train the big 5 movement patterns. So I'll have them perform, I'm not going to, put 500 pounds on the bar, but I do want to see them in the 5 fundamental movement patterns that we're going to train just to see how they respond. And that's kind of just in short what we're looking at for the kid when he comes in on day 1. He's going to tell us where he wants to go, where we'll see where he's at, and we'll be the roadmap for him to get where he wants to go.
Let me ask you, Drew, do you ever discuss maybe a eating habit or
for
diet
sure? So
with a
thank you
player?
for bringing that up. That's part of our coach athlete interview. So we'll go into their nutritional habits. We'll go into their sleeping habits.
All that's so important.
100%. And if we had a pick, if you're not sleeping, there's no reason for you to be working out. We need you to get, your 8 hours of sleep. So many studies are coming out with incredible information on that. And nutrition, right? These are two huge components to the development of our athletes that are really easy to do and really easy not to do. And we primarily fall into the category of really easy not to do. That's certainly, we want to see what kind of habits they have as far as eating, as far as sleeping. We want to just see what coaching style they resonate with. So we'll ask them, what kind of coaching style do you respond to best? And of course, we're gonna get feedback as we continue to work with the athlete, but we want to hear them, and how they feel they're gonna be, absorb information as efficiently as possible.
That's awesome. So something that popped into my head as you're kind of going through this is, as you go through this process with an athlete and say they are making huge strides on the athletic side of things before, this is transferred to the baseball side of things, do you then see, maybe the last hurdle of this being mindset? You've made all of these strides to become a better athlete. Now it's, transferring to better skills on the field, but maybe some mindset or, visualization type things are getting in the way from them becoming very successful.
Absolutely. And I think that mindset coaching is every day. Every day they step into the gym, even when they're not in the gym, we're there. We're there we're trying to guide them to where they need to go. I'm not going to, I want them to explore and have empowerment on their journey. I'm just on, metaphorically their guards, their bumper guards, right? I'm there to make sure they stay on course, but there's no one way to skin a cat, and everyone can be spoken to differently, and everyone responds to different feedback. And as you guys know, coaching is teaching the same thing 30 different ways. And that's kind of how you have to approach it. And as far as mindset, that's day one. Day one, when they come in with us, we're creating that rapport, that human relationship, so we could then be able to try and nurture and help develop the psychological part of these athletes. And it's going to happen with them getting out of their comfort zone and showing up day to day, even if they don't want to be there, getting there, putting in the work, getting outside their comfort zone, they're going to naturally evolve as athletes from a mindset component with just building confidence in themselves, in the people around them. It's so beautiful to watch a kid who comes in and might be more on the timid side and unsure of himself and not have a whole lot of experience in that gym or being coached, and to see them navigate their own ship with us just helping to steer here and there. It's not our show. It's all about them. And we just want to give them as many tools as we can to succeed as possible. And it's going to be different from each individual.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So I guess, what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing out there, and we talked a little bit about it in youth baseball and high school baseball and college as well. Do you think having someone, with your background in sports science or exercise, physiology, like is that an important guy to have on the coaching staff at the college level? Do you think like it for this gap to be bridged, is that someone you need on the staff, or is someone you think is valuable with that experience? Because I think a lot of programs, this conversation is super beneficial to.
I think for sure, just like we mentioned, I think we're starting to get there, but 100% agree. If you can have someone who's able to see the game as movement versus just technical skill and X's and O's of baseball coaching, and that's happening at the college level. And the head coach, you got to just know your lane, right? The head coach is the leader, right? He's going to run the ship. It's his ship to run, and he knows that his job is to get the guys prepared, build the culture, win games, and he's going to run that side of it. But he's got to understand that he has resources around him and coaches that see the game in a different lens than him, where he may not have so much experience. And the same kind of analogy is, I'm not an accountant. I'm going to go to my accountant when I need to get my taxes done. So I think we're getting there. And I totally think that would be of such value to have someone around watching these kids and just seeing movement, right? Just seeing how these athletes move, because they all express themselves differently on a field. And once you start, put them in an environment as far as a field that they play in, right? There's so many different psychological factors and game speed and the opponent you're playing and pressures from, 7 different directions. It's great to have someone who's able to see it from that lens and communicate clearly to the coach. I just think it makes such a cohesive system.
Yeah, no, I agree. And yeah, I get that feeling from what we're seeing happen out there and from this conversation. That's probably why I've latched on, I think, to your content so much. It's a little bit out of the box thinking about how to develop athletes, and I definitely think there needs to be a bigger focus on it. I guess I got one more question before we kind of hop in to quick pitch here, but I guess where do you see the future of F.A.S.T development going, and what do you have coming in 2020 that you think is a big game changer, and where do you see this thing going?
So I'm really excited. We're not trying to reinvent any wheels, but we are going to challenge the status quo. We are going to say, hey guys, we're missing the ball. Let's just take a few steps back and check out this athlete first and see what they're telling us, see what they need, what tools do we need to give them to get to the next level. And I think this is going to be the next trend of being able to have a skills coach and a movement coach as one is gonna be super valuable for the development of the infielder. And like I said, we look at the athlete first, and we dissect it down and see what they need. Are they able? Coaches will get on players about, hey, first step needs to get better. First step needs to get better. Well, okay, coach, please just show me how I can do that. And I think that's part of where we're missing. The coach right now isn't equipped to teach them ground force reactions and applied force direction into the ground and vertical shin angles and posture and sprint, right? So if we could, we need to we can't call a kid out constantly and not give him the means to make the adjustment. Get in your backside, get in your legs. Well, I could take that, but what does that mean? How do I get in my legs? How do I physically hip hinge, load my glutes and drive force into the ground and reciprocate it? You got to show the athlete how it's done, right? You can't just expect that to happen and for them to get and get mad at them if they don't succeed in what you're trying to accomplish. You got to show them how to get there, and once you do that, they'll figure it out. But I definitely think that F.A.S.T ID is going to challenge the status quo of how we're teaching the infield play, and it's obviously technical skill and developing these sport specific skills is super crucial to the infield player, but we need to first build that engine and motor, and they're going to be able to absorb and express this out in between the lines so much more efficiently.
So we're going to pivot to our quick pitch segment.
We'll lighten the mood a little bit. We were getting a little bit serious there.
Yeah. Oh, well, to lighten it up, I have a quick theory I could share with you, Drew. I just want you to confirm it.
Theory, okay.
I got a theory that all infielders are better when they wear their pants higher with the socks.
You're talking to the right guy, because I always wore socks up in my stirrups, so I would have to agree.
Yeah.
That. Yes, that's a fact.
Whenever I see like Carlos Correa or something, or like Didi, I'm always like, damn, like that guy is a vacuum.
Dude,
like,
and
he's never going to make an error.
Exactly. For sure. I agree.
All right. So pivoting to quick pitch, what's your favorite baseball movie?
Sandlot. Sandlot was a staple of my childhood. It was a reoccurring weekend movie that I would watch.
Love it.
There's so much. It's kind of a little bit of how I was brought up. We were always out in the parks playing pickup ball and figuring out ways where we could create new games and getting yelled at to go home to eat and begging to stay out later with our friends at the park and playing wall ball and stoop ball. And it's so much relatability there that's certainly my favorite movie.
Yeah, that you can't go wrong with Sandlot, and the relatability, like you said. It's unbelievable. Question number 2. This might be a hard one. You can take your time on this. What's the biggest lesson that baseball has taught you over the years?
We could have a whole nother podcast on this because there's just so many layers to this. The biggest lesson baseball has ever taught me is probably just adaptable in adversity. Baseball is a very humbling sport where I mentioned earlier in the podcast, you fail 70% of the time. And that's why I think defense has such a special place in my heart, because there is it's indicative of who you are. That glove's an extension of your character and how you express yourself as a person. I just think there's so much adversity in the game of baseball that teaches you so many lessons that you don't realize until you get done playing, and life will, kick you in the gut. But it humbles you and lets you know that you're not bigger than the game, and that you do need other people to help you push forward, and that nothing's permanent. You're going to make mistakes, and mistakes should be something we seek, because they're only going to allow us to continue to make adjustments for these situations. So I think adaptability and adversity is the biggest thing baseball has taught me that's transferred out into life. Sometimes you question, like, why did I play this game, man, after a nice 0-for-4 day or 4 rollovers or 2 errors? But it's such a beautiful game that has so many lessons embedded in it, and not even getting into all the memories and great people that you meet along the way and mentors. you've inquired with. So there's just so many different levels to this game that I appreciate, and I'm so thankful for it. It's given me more than I could ever ask for.
And like you said, baseball is 70% failure, and that's if you're lucky.
Really, really good. You're probably going to be in the Hall of Fame. So go figure, right? It's crazy to think about that. And another thing, you know, we're just such a results oriented society and instant gratification, and you don't get that from baseball. You have to put in your time, and you have to stay the course, and you got to be patient, and you'll get it, and it's going to make it that much sweeter. And it's kind of just the whole big picture, you know, process mindset that baseball helps you to develop, that translates into your adult life and into your coaching life.
If I was a new high school baseball coach trying to better my overall program, just when it comes to culture, when you're dealing with training, what's the most profound tip that you could give them?
I think it's understanding who's in front of you and meeting them where they're at. You know, I think some coaches have these expectations of kids to be where they are and forgot that it took them 15, 20 years to start to figure it out a little bit. Sometimes we lose sight of that and demand these athletes to get from A to Z, but we don't tell them about B, C, D. And we need to guide them a little bit better in that sense sometimes. I feel like sometimes we just demand these things, like I said, and we expect these kids to just meet these expectations with a snap of a finger. And if they don't, then maybe they're deemed not hard workers or not committed, but it's not the case. They want nothing more to work hard and to do what you're asking. It's just you got to show them the way and lead them and facilitate them to be their own best teachers.
Right.
And I think just be a student of the game across all walks. We have so much resources available to us now. You know, if you don't know a whole lot about on the training side, as far as, you know, strength and conditioning, there's so much resources out there that do speak to everybody and could speak in layman terms enough for you to at least give your kids some kind of advice. And also just we're on a podcast now, and you guys have a great social media platform and great networking, and that's available to everybody. So I think there's so many different platforms putting out great stuff that, you know, if you just put a little bit of time into educate yourself and make yourself a more well-rounded coach, and I think it's just going to create, you know, showing the kids that you truly care about them, that you're willing to put in the extra work and go the extra mile for them. And that's going to be reciprocated. That's going to build buy-in.
Love that. Love that. You know, your perspective has been really cool to hear, your experience. I think it'll connect with a lot of coaches out there that are listening. Yeah, I mean, this has been fun. I could probably go another hour with this, but we're gonna have to wrap it up, and we'll get you back on here, I'm sure, for some talk about culture or a round table or something in the future. Oh, the other thing I wanted to ask you, I saw your hats on your Instagram.
Uh-oh.
Those are some pretty fly hats. I might need one of those.
No problem, David. You and Quinn, you gotta let me know what size hats you need, and I'll ship them back out there.
Oh, yeah. All right. We'll be in touch.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. I got you guys. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, because we got to get a crate out to you anyway for so all the listeners know that Drew's going to be doing some content for us. He's going to be taking part in our mentor program. So yeah, we got to get a crate out to you with some stuff, some, you know, tools that you might use, and then we can rep your hat a little bit too. Me. I like those hats,
guys. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you bringing me on here and just talking shop, and I'm super excited to what the future has in store and to be a part of the hub that you guys are creating. I love your message, and I love what you guys are doing for the game.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Hey, pleasure is all ours, Drew. Thanks for being on. You know, it was awesome to hear about your journey so far, and yeah, we'll talk again soon for sure.
You can catch us on Instagram at F.A.S.T Development SD. We're on there pretty often. Please reach out, ask any questions. We would love to hear from you guys.
Yeah, seriously, all the listeners, check out his page. It's awesome. Yeah, we occasionally will, at them or post something on the story or the Instagram with some of the stuff we like. But there'll be more coming. So yeah, all the listeners, check them out. Drew Walsh, everybody. Thank you.
Hey guys, Dave is not here. This is Quinn doing the outro. That was just a great episode with Drew Walsh of F.A.S.T Development. It's great to know that there are New Yorkers like him out there on the West Coast repping the East Coast. So I guess he's got some stuff in the works with Coach Crates, so stay tuned for that. At Coach Crates on everything social media, coachcrates.com. I just looked at the website, and the video that they posted yesterday has a dugout therapy cameo, so check that out. It's a front toss weighted ball drill video that's very exciting. Subscribe if you haven't. Dugout Therapy on most podcast platforms, and I think we're on YouTube, SoundCloud, so check that out. Have a good week, guys.